Hey guys, welcome back. Today I am going to work on week 10 Project Life, and I'm using the exact same kit that I used last week. So if you watched last week's Project Life video, you'll know it was like super bright and super colorful. I embraced my love of pink, and today I wanted to challenge myself to use that exact same kit but in a slightly different way. So you can see me picking out cards here, cards and papers. I want to go a little bit more neutral this week. Now, there's not like any major kind of reason for that other than I wanted to challenge myself. I'm all too happy to grab as many colorful things as I can. I wanted to maybe try and tone down that color palette a little bit this week and see whether I could still come up with something that I was happy with. There is a little bit of color in my photos this week, so I'm not going to be devoid of all color in this particular spread. There are a couple of sort of neutral black and white photos, but there are some colorful photos in here, and you can see me kind of swapping some of those photos back and forward just to get a balance of color across the page, because everything else I'm going to be using is a little bit more on the neutral side, including this 3x4 card. So this was one of the ones in the kit. I think it's an old Studio Calico one. It had this circular element that I thought would make a great frame, so I grabbed a circle die and die cut that out and just washi taped my photo in behind the actual journal card, and I love the effect. It's so cute. I could have easily die cut the photo as well and stuck that on top, but I kind of like it's a very subtle effect of having the photo underneath the card instead. So this other 3x4 card, it would have been totally fine just to leave it as it was, but I decided to add a couple of extra stamps in here. Some of my photos are a little bit on the darker side, or have at least some sort of elements of darkness to them. This one definitely didn't. This was my rat test, my negative rat test, that is. And so I decided to add a couple of stamps just with some black ink in here using the stamp set from Citrus Twist. This week I did kind of add a few bits and pieces to the kit because I knew that I had made this kit to be, you know, a mildly colorful kit. So I wanted to add a few kind of other elements that I knew I would need to sort of tone things down a bit. Some of which are stamp sets, so stamping is a really easy way to add a little bit of neutrality into my layout, and I did that there with a couple of sentiments. Now, when I printed my photos this week, I specifically printed these two kind of self-portraits showing me in my exact same room but doing two very different things. So here in my little craft room, I craft, I play, but I also work from home. So I did before the pandemic, I do now during the pandemic, I work from home. And so I took two very specific photos showing me working and playing, and I really wanted to get those kind of words on there to have that contrast between the two activities, but I didn't really have a super strong idea on how I was going to do that. I was just thinking alphas to begin with, but they're quite busy photos, and so I wanted something to sort of land those words onto. I started with the tags die cuts from Citrus Twist, which I had added to my kit because I didn't really think that I had anything in the actual kit that I could work with. But then I realized I've got these little Heidi Swap note to self spots. And the words note to self are only in one place on these little tags. So it's very easy to remove that wording by just flipping the circle upside down, which is what I'm going to do. I wanted to place those circles so they were not like directly on top of each other, you know, so they had a little bit of opposition in their placement as well as their wording. So once I got that worked out where I could put those two circles, I just adhered them down, slipping that note to self wording off the top of the photo and then just trimmed those down. Now I had pulled out my Bailey Thick and Thin alphas, thinking I would use those, but they were a little bit too big for these circle spots, just the size that I've got to work with. So I ended going up with my other Bailey alpha, which is a little bit smaller, so it stamps the words on here nicely, but because it is a little bit smaller, and these circular tags are quite large. I don't know the exact size. I'm going to guess they're about 1.5 inches maybe. There's quite a lot of kind of white space on here, so I do want to do something to fill that out. So I started with these chipboard asterisks, like the chipboard set. You can see it was quite colourful. I only have some fairly neutral ones left now. So there's a little light grey one and a kind of peachy coloured one. They work quite nicely with the tones that are going on. They just don't fill up like too much of that space. I didn't want to put them in the sort of main space and center it above the word. That's just not, it didn't look balanced to my eye. I mean, it would have been completely balanced, but it's just not that sort of dynamic, I guess. And so I've put those little asterisks off to the side, and I'm going to fill in the blank space underneath the stamping with just a couple of kind of extra words with these Pink Fresh Studio alphas. They are kind of peachy pink, but I mean, they tone in nicely with my photos. I'm not saying no color, just less color this week, and they work nicely. I just had to adhere that chipboard asterisk down. It didn't have a backing on it. I just popped that back into the sheet last week, I think. So I used a little bit of smart glue from scrapbook.com to stick that down, and then added my words in. So I've got playtime and hard work. I really wanted it to say work hard, but obviously I've already done the stamping. I'm just swapping those words around, and I know what it means. It wasn't necessarily hard work, it was me hard at work. So the journaling for my little bread photo here, I thought I would do on a tag. So again, this is in addition to my actual kit, but it tones in nicely. So as much as I'm challenging myself, I'm also not going to restrict myself when I know that there might be a better option. I did trim the tag down because I want to kind of extend it behind my photo, and I realized I kind of trimmed it in the wrong place. I want the hole to the tag on the left hand side, that I get the most space for the journaling on the right. So I just grabbed another tag. Luckily I have a whole bunch of these ones hanging around. I've marked with my pencil where I want my journaling to be, and then I just run that straight through my typewriter. So it's a little bit messy, but it all works out in the end. So you can see here when I'm adhering things down why I cut that tag, because I just want it to extend from both ends of my photo. So there's a little gap in the middle. You don't see that. The photo is going to bridge that gap, and your eye just fills in that detail, even though it's probably far too long for the actual dimensions of a tag. It just looks like one tag underneath there. But because I did run that through my typewriter, there's kind of a larger gap at the bottom than there is at the top. It's not particularly balanced. These are just the foibles of me using a vintage typewriter. It has these little quirks. I filled in that space with a little sticker. It's kind of like blue. There's a few kind of pops of cooler blue on there, and I think it contrasts really nicely with some of those warmer neutral tones this week too. So I'm really only left with my title card. I figured I would use that tag that I cut short, not put it to waste. I'm going to use these blue alphas. So they are, again, in addition to my kit. There's the same style of alphas in the kit, which was why I thought of them, because I've added that little blue sticker. I realized there are a few kind of pops of blue in my photos. So the blue alphas work much nicer. They kind of contribute to the calmness of this spread much more than sort of teal or pink would have. I definitely could have stamped a title, and you'll see I'm going to stamp my numbers anyway, but I did want to add a little bit of that blue in there, and because I'm stamping onto this kind of crafty colored tag, it would not have stamped a blue. It would have ended up green anyway. So I'm just working out where I am actually going to stamp everything. I wasn't entirely sure. I wanted to line it all up nicely. I'm using I think is it the Lunar numbers? I think that's the name again from Citrus Twist. I'll link anything that is still available that I'm using this week. I will link it down below. But as with a stash kit, lots of this stuff is years and years old, so I can't link everything. I'm sorry. I just stamped the outline of those numbers because I didn't want that heavy blackness at the top, but I did want a little bit of black. And I'm going to add just one of my digitally little printed tags here. I have organized them by color, which makes things a little bit easier. I was trying to work out what color to grab. I don't have a whole lot of blue ones in there, so in the end I did go with kind of the bluest teal that I have, and I'm going to stick that down, but you'll see me, I peel this sort of stuff up again in just a second. After I do my date stamping, I decide I've got 2 of those chipboard asterisks on here, and so I want to add a third one. I love my little 3s. And I ended up putting this kind of white one down, which kind of got me thinking, I wish the 10 was white. Yeah, just that white asterisk just sort of set that off. I wish the 10 was white. Now ask me why I didn't then go ahead and use the solid version of the stamp and maybe stamp with white ink or stamp with, say, Versamark and then white heat emboss. And I'll tell you, I just didn't think about it at the time. I decided that I would color in these alphas instead, and I couldn't get anything to be as white as I wanted. I tried a white pencil, I tried a jelly roll pen. In the end, I go and grab a Posca paint pen and paint all of those numbers in by hand. I definitely could have done this an easier way. I mean, to be fair, once I found the right tool, it didn't take me that long, but there probably was an easier option. Just didn't think of it at the time. Hindsight's 2020 and all of that. But once I've filled in those letters, well, I keep calling them letters, they're numerals. Once I've filled them in, I can add my label back in. I'm going to change my mind about the chipboard now, because I've got the white numerals. I don't need white chipboard as well, so I'm going to pop that one back in the sheet. And I do end up using a kind of peachy, pinky color just to add a little bit of that contrast, the warmth back up into the top. You can see me testing out black. It took far too much attention away from that light title, so I used the pink, add the contrast, and call this week all done. So I am super happy with this. I love having these little challenges for myself, step out of my comfort zone just a little bit. And this kit worked equally as well for neutrals as it did for my more colourful week, which I'm glad to see. Hey, thanks for watching today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, I'm going to leave a couple of videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you again next time. Bye.